To all of you, what a joy it is to be able to gather in our Lord's name on this Sunday, not together physically yet, but gathered together in spirit as we share thoughts on a passage from God's word, as we pray together, and as we just focus on how we respond to God's message this morning. I want to read Psalm 126 as a call to worship this morning, one of the Psalms of Ascent. Listen to the word of the Lord. When the Lord brought back the captives to Zion, we were like men who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like streams in the Negev, like fresh water running in the desert. Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. He who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with him. Let us pray. Father God, we come before you humbly this morning, as always, seeking your mercy as your sons and your daughters. We gather this morning in your name to share thoughts on a particular passage from your word. And we pray, Lord, that you would still our minds, our hearts, our souls, as we listen to the teaching on this word, and help us, Lord, not only to listen to this, but as always to take your word deep inside us, so that as we live our daily lives, we will reflect your love for us and our love for you in a way that will bring glory and honor to you. We ask this, Jesus, in your precious and wonderful name. Amen. The lectionary reading this morning that we will be looking at comes from Romans 12. And I was both delighted and challenged when I saw that that was the lectionary reading, Romans 12, verses 1 to 8. It's a rich passage that has been very important to me in my walk of faith. This morning I want us to look just at the first two verses. Listen to them as I read them. Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. This is at the start of chapter 12, and Paul has spent 11 chapters setting out systematically and in great detail the Christian doctrine, dealing with the main themes of sin, salvation, grace, faith, righteousness, justification, sanctification, redemption, death, and resurrection. Justification by faith through grace alone. And having done so, he now turns to teach that Jesus requires us to allow him to be the Lord of every area of our life. And he points out that God requires action from us as we respond to his word. Not just thinking and believing, but faith expressing itself in action and in obedience. And note that this passage starts with the word therefore. What he is saying is, take everything that I've said to you up to now through chapters 1 through 11, and therefore listen to what I'm now going to tell you. And the therefore means that what follows the therefore is not standing alone. It's an application of all that has gone before. And you will note that Paul writes, therefore I urge you. Do you hear that? It's not just an important instruction, it's one that is urgent as well. And it's not just an instruction to ponder on or to debate about what has been said. It is a call to action. And it's a call given to all of us. Therefore, in view of God's mercy, I urge you, brothers and sisters. Do you hear? It's a call to all of us. It's not just a call to church leaders. And in those times, it wasn't just a call to the Gentile believers in Rome or to the Jewish believers who were in Rome. It was a call to all, a call to act on the truth of the Christian doctrine that Paul had just systematically set out for his readers. And then Paul gives the reason why we are to do this. He says, I urge you to act in view of God's mercy. Much of what has been said in the first 11 chapters has systematically demonstrated God's mercy, demonstrating what God has already done for us. And one needs to go back and have a look through those first 11 chapters. I want to touch on just a few passages just to give one a flavor of what Paul has said to us. You see, at just the right time when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Justification through faith by grace alone, Romans 5:18. Consequently, just as the result of one trespass was condemnation for all persons, so also the result of one act of righteousness was justification that brings life for all. For just as through the disobedience of the one man, the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of the one man, the many will be made righteous. We read also that, therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And we read further that we are more than conquerors. No, in all things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Powerful, powerful passages, and there are many more explaining what has been done for us. And then Paul calls on us and guides us as to what you and I are to do in regard to this. What are we to do in view of God's mercy? We read there that you and I are to offer our bodies as living sacrifices. Offer our bodies as living sacrifices. There was a very complex system of animal sacrifices that was known to the Jewish believers, set out in Leviticus in great detail. But Paul was not talking about this. And the Christian believers might have felt that they were not ones who followed the system of animal sacrifices. But Paul is pointing out that they do have a sacrificial obligation, and we have a sacrificial obligation, one that in fact passes the obligations prescribed in the Torah law. Paul is saying that our response is to be that we offer ourselves in contrast to animal sacrifices, living sacrifices. Here, I believe, not only saying not dead, but also being alive through the infilling of the Holy Spirit within us. Offer yourselves as living sacrifices. Eugene Peterson paraphrases this like this: take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Do you hear what that means? It means to take everything you do in your everyday, ordinary life and place it before God as an offering. And this is not just something that we do when we attend a worship service or a Bible study or a church function. It's everything we do. It's everything you do. It's everything I do, 24/7. And Paul's not talking about a ritual activity, but he's talking about the involvement of heart, mind, and will. And so Paul continues that we are to do this in response to what God has done for us in a way that will be holy and pleasing to God. And he takes it further, giving us a new insight, saying, that is your true and proper worship. It's something to really ponder on and to think about. We so often think that worship is something that we do in an hour or so on a Sunday morning when we gather in church, in a church building, or spiritually connected on a virtual platform like this during this pandemic. And perhaps we even see worship at times when we are in prayer or when we're serving others, and there will be other times as well. But we tend to think of it as something located at a particular time. And Paul is putting this in a completely different light. Living 24/7 in response to what has been done for us means the involvement of our hearts, our mind, our will in everything we do day in and day out. That is your true and proper worship. Therefore, I urge you in view of God's mercy to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. And Paul continues to develop his argument, taking it further, and he instructs us, instructs you, instructs me as to how we are to respond to what has been done for us. He starts verse 2 with these words, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world." And this is a warning to each one of us. We live in a world of great activity, great busyness, major distractions, and serious noise. We're bombarded from all directions, and we're subject to peer pressure. Why don't you do this? You're asked. Try this out. It will blow your mind. Everybody's doing it. You're going to be left out if you don't try this. Advertising and social media presents pictures of people who seem to be perfect, who seem to have their lives together, wonderful material possessions, and exciting and adventurous lives with no problems. And we hear politicians are acting corruptly. They're helping themselves. They're growing rich. Why are you falling behind? And the noise and the pressure goes on and on and on quite relentlessly. This sentence is translated by J.B. Phillips as saying, don't let the world around you squeeze you into its own mold. Don't let the world around you squeeze you into its own mold. The word conform, I guess, means that we must be flexible, pliable, impressionable, able to be molded by someone outside or external forces into someone different to who we are or to who God would have us be. Eugene Peterson puts it like this: don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit in without even thinking. Listen to these sentences. Do not conform to the patterns of the world. Don't let the world around you squeeze you into its mold. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit in without even thinking. So the call from Paul is a call to pause, to stop, and to review our actions and to identify what is in fact influencing us. In the Gospel of Mark, we read, what good is it to gain the whole world and to forfeit your soul? And then Paul, having told us what we are not to do, goes on to tell us what we are to do. He says that we are to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. This means change from within, not just bending to outside pressure. And it's not our external appearance that needs to be changed, but we need to have a change of mindset, a change of heart, as we truly understand what God has done from us and how we are going to respond. Eugene Peterson says, fix your attention on God. You will be changed from the inside out, not from the outside in. You will be changed from the inside out. And the image perhaps comes to mind of traveling on a train, traveling on a straight line to a particular destination. And you get to a major train station and you have an option there. You either stay on your train and just keep traveling in the same direction forever, or you get off that train, get onto another train, and set off in a new direction for a new destination. But we need to pause and to think about this and to act intentionally. Paul continues saying, if we do this, we will be able to test and approve what God's will is. So often I think we try to mold God into the image of what we believe he should be. And in doing so, we ourselves are often molded by the pattern of this world. But Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you can find out what God's will is for you personally, and to find out that it is God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. Good in the sense here that this will lead us to spiritual and moral growth as followers of Christ. Pleasing to God, not necessarily pleasing to us, and perfect in the sense that it is God's will, requiring no refinement or adaptation from our side. I believe that we too often have a very limited view of worship, and Paul is urging us to know and understand that our true and proper worship is to offer our whole lives to God. Martin Lloyd-Jones describes some of the wrong ideas that we have about worship. And he does so by referring to the story of the time when Jesus met the Samaritan woman at the well. When asked whether one was to worship on the mountain or in Jerusalem, Jesus responds saying that the time will come when the true worshipper will worship not on the mountain nor in Jerusalem, but in spirit and in truth. Our worship is not bound to one location, not on the mountain, not in Jerusalem, and not only in the church building. Our worship is to take place wherever we are. We've experienced something of this in this time of lockdown during this pandemic, when we've not been able to gather in our own church building. So our worship is not to be restricted just to particular times, only on a Sunday, but is to be worship on every day of every week. And our worship is not just to be a purely intellectual exercise. When we find it interesting to read and understand and to debate God's will, but don't respond to the Word of God. Paul is saying we need to act. It's a call to action. How are you going to respond? Our worship is to be in spirit, in God's spirit, and in truth, in Jesus Christ. What does this mean for you and for me? I think it means that we need to pause and to reflect on how we are currently responding to what has been done for us. And we need to think about that. Break the mold of thinking that worship is something that takes place only in a particular location at a particular time and with particular circumstances. And consider and verbalize, perhaps make a note of these. What are the pressures that are pushing in on you? What are the pressures that are molding you at this time? This time of lockdown has allowed us a chance of being released from responding to some of these pressures, some of the patterns of the world. And the question, I guess, is this: what will we do when there is a time of free restrictions? Will we respond again to those pressures as we did before? Or will we look at life and live life differently now? Pray against becoming so well adjusted to your culture that you fit in without even thinking. And then pray in regard to the actions that you will take that will transform your mindset, that will change your heart from the inside out. Change the way that you live. And don't be put off by this. These need not be major decisions, but they will include things that you will do for yourself and that you will do for others. But you need to make a start as you respond. Take time each day to pause and to reflect and to pray and to read. Keep a note of things that strike you and that catch your attention. In these days of digital communication, it's easy to subscribe to get a Bible verse sent to you every morning, a Bible passage or a reflection for the day. You may want to start reading the Bible through in a year. It need not be from Genesis chapter 1 to the end of Revelation, but there are guides that will take you systematically through the Bible in a year, but do that in a planned way. And look on a daily basis as to what action you can take to communicate with or to reach out to others, to spread a little bit of happiness to somebody each day. And this need not be a major intervention, although it might be. Be open to the leading of the Spirit and respond as you are prompted to do so. In these days of electronic communication, we may want to send an SMS or a WhatsApp or an email to somebody else just to say hi. You may want to get in touch with Michelle Lincoln or Sue or somebody else offering a ministry to find out how you can assist, whether from home, actively, financially, sharing your time, or in prayer. You might want to start or join a fellowship group, a Bible study group, a book group. Find an interesting book. Find some who can share thoughts on that book as you read through a book, bringing light to God's word. But seek to broaden your horizons as to how you can respond in true and proper worship. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to respond to God's word. Amen. Let us pray. Lord, we hear your word as expounded by Paul. We hear not only an important message, but an urgent message to each one of us, calling each one of us to action, each one of us to identify what you have done for us, so that with thanksgiving we can respond by going into action. Help us each day to give thanks, Lord, for what you have done for us. Help us to identify the very big things and help us to identify those things that may be far smaller. But help us, Lord, to know and understand how we can live every hour of every day in a way that will be our true and proper worship, being good, pleasing, and perfect for you. Help us to pause in the times of great busyness and just be still and know that you are God. Help us to listen for your voice in these times. We ask you now that you would change each one of us from the inside out. help us to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, that we may serve you in a way that brings you glory and honor. We ask this in your precious name, Lord. Amen. Thank you for joining us this morning. I pray that you will enjoy the rest of Sunday and the week that lies ahead. There are 2 songs that have been recorded, and you may want to listen to these. The first is Take My Life and Let It Be Consecrated, Lord, for Thee. And the second one is In Christ Alone. I would like to read as a benediction just the last few verses of chapter 11 of Romans. It's headed a doxology. Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God, how unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out. Who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been his counselor? Who has ever given to God that God should repay him? For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be the glory forever. Amen. And now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God the Father, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with and abide with each one of you now and forevermore. Amen.
My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand.